Hi and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Today I have something a bit different for you. Rather than a card, I'm going to be making a gift box. I don't normally make things other than cards, but I decided it would be fun to make a matching gift box for this little tea gift set that I have. So I don't have a template for this. I am doing it entirely by measuring things and working it out in my head, which does lead to one or two little mistakes, and I will show you how I fix those as we go along. So I started by measuring the gift set against my cardstock, and I'm just using the same cardstock I use for my card bases here, so a nice heavyweight cardstock. The gift set fit perfectly across, so I'm just working out how much either side I will have for the flaps that are going to fold up against the long edges. And as you can see, I scribbled on a post-it note and I worked out that I need 7.35 centimeter flaps. And this allows an extra ½ centimeter space in the middle area, which should make it easy to slip the gift set in and out. If you had that center portion being the exact width of the gift box, then it would be very snug and it might be very difficult to get the gift in and out of the box. So then I need some flaps to go on the shorter edges of the gift box, and I need these flaps to be the same height as the other flaps will be, so that's 7.35 centimeters. And I also need to allow a portion that I can score and adhere to the main part of the box, so that they will attach together nicely. I actually should have made these pieces wider than I did, because they should have had flaps on either end so that their corners would be able to be adhered together. So this is one of the mistakes that I made, and you will see how I fix that a bit later in the video. For now, we're just going to go ahead with cutting out these pieces, and I will score them at 1 centimeter using the scoring blade that comes with my paper trimmer. And this centimeter piece is the piece that will adhere to the card base, the gift box base, as you can see. And I did make sure to write just in pencil which is the wrong side of my box pieces, so that I know where I should be stamping. Next, I'm going to work out my lid. The 7.35 centimeter flaps that I have at the moment will leave a centimeter of the box above the box that I'm making, which I think is nice because that helps you get it in and out. And I need to make sure that the lip on my lid is longer than that, so I decided 2.5 centimeters would be a nice length. I'm also adding 0.7 centimeters as my kind of margin of error. This is larger than the 0.5 I did for the base part, because that lid needs to go over the bottom portion of the box as well. So I need to add that 0.7 plus 2 times 2.5 onto the length and width of my box. And the reason you want 2 times 2.5 is because you want that lip on both ends of the box. If you only added 2.5 once, then you would only have a 1.25 centimeter lip on either edge, which is not the amount I want. I do make a mistake with my maths here, and I end up trimming my paper down wrong because I forgot to add that 5, but that's fine. I can use that piece of paper for something else later. And I just recut another piece at the correct size. I then went and marked along the lip portion on the inside of my lid. This isn't actually necessary because I will be using the guides on my paper cutter later to work out where to score. I then used my Altenew swatch sheet to work out what colour inks to use for stamping. I compared the colours on the swatch sheet to the colours of the flowers on the mug and coaster in the set, and I actually ended up going a shade lighter than the ones that I thought were the best match, just because I wanted it to be different, like coordinating but not exactly the same, if that makes sense. The stamp set I'm using is a Birch Press Designs layering stamp. I do not remember the exact name off the top of my head, I'm afraid, but the details will all be in the description box below, so you can check them out down there. I'm using Altenew Frosty Pink for my solid layer, the bottom layer of these flowers, and I'm going to stamp that all over the pieces of my box, so the side flaps, the main portion of the box, and then the lid. And I'm making sure that when I stamp down, I'm going over the edges of the cardstock because I want it to look like it came from a larger patterned piece. If you have more patience than me, you could go through and make sure that all the portions that meet up, that the pattern goes across them in such a way that the pattern will line up when the box is made, if that makes sense. I think that would look really pretty, but it would take quite a while to do. After I've stamped all my solid layer parts, I'm going to go in with the detail layer. I'm using Altenew Coralberry ink for this layer, and on these particular stamps there's a kind of V shape or an inverted V shape at the bottom of the flower, which I find is the easiest part to try and line up. The pieces that overlap the edge of the cardstock don't necessarily have that V part, so on those pieces you just have to try and look for other identifying marks, and if you're not sure, just rotate the stamp over it until it looks like it lines up. The tiny pieces in particular, it won't be terribly obvious if they're not perfectly lined up, so just find the best match you can and go with that. So again, I'm going to go across all the pieces and add this second layer onto all of my flowers. The reason I chose these flowers was because I don't want to have to do any colouring, so I wanted a solid flower. I liked the idea of layering because that gives some nice detail, and these only have 2 layers, so it's not too time consuming to make, because this did take quite a while to make as it was. Next I'm going to add in some leaves. I use the big leaf and then the middle smaller leaf, and I'm going to stamp those. I'm actually going to go around and do both of them at once, and I'm using Frayed leaf ink for these. I did mask off the scored flap area of my smallest panels. This wasn't really necessary. I did it because I didn't want any ink showing on the bottom of the box, but this is going to be adhered to the inside of the box anyway, that flap, so it wouldn't have shown anyway, so it didn't really need to be masked off, but it doesn't matter that I did mask it off. So I'm going to fill in various areas with both sizes of leaves across all my pieces, and then I'm going to go in with the darker colour for the detail layer, and this is Forest Glades ink. And I did go through and do just all the larger leaves first, and then went back with the same colour ink to do all the smaller leaves. I felt like my pattern still had a bit too much white space. I do like clean and simple, so I like white space, but I felt like this needed a bit more to it. So I took some of the little detail stamps from the stamp set. The cluster of 3 little dots I am stamping with Frosty Pink, which was the lightest pink that I used for my solid layer of my flowers. And then I'm using a larger circle dot with the Frayed leaf, which was the green I used for the solid layer of the leaves. Having completed all my stamping, I will start assembling the box. I'm going to make sure all my lines are scored where I need them to be scored, so on the base part of the box and also on the lid. The reason I'm scoring after stamping is just so that the score lines don't interfere with the stamping, because they could have made it difficult for the stamp to get all the way into the cardstock if the score lines were there, if that makes sense. So then for the lid, I also need to do a little bit of cutting as well to make sure that these flaps will adhere together properly. I'm then going to go around and crease all of my score lines, burnish them nicely with my bone folder to make sure they are properly creased and ready to go. And I will at some point as well go around and erase all those pencil marks that I have in there. So here you can see, because I didn't put flaps on the edge of those pieces, I didn't have any way to adhere them together, so I made an extra little flap construction piece to go into those corners. So this is just scored in half and then adhered onto the longer side, as you can see, and then it will also be adhered to join up with the shorter piece to make a nice corner. If you remembered to put flaps on the sides of your side flap, then you wouldn't need to do this. And I hope my explanation makes sense, but if it doesn't, then you can see on screen what I'm doing, so it should be clear. If it's not clear, please do ask questions and I will try to explain better. I'm using double-sided tape to adhere this together, and you want the strongest tape you have really for this. I probably could have used a stronger one, but this was what I had, so it was good enough. So then I made sure that the tea set fit in the box, which it does, which is good because I wouldn't want to have to start over again. Then I'm going to adhere the lid together. Now these square flaps probably should not be square because there's a slight margin of error in the trimming, so they don't necessarily line up perfectly and they're kind of showing slightly. So I did carefully peel them apart, and here's where you can see where my tape wasn't necessarily as strong as I would have liked, but it worked in my favour really this time. So I trimmed a little bit off the edge so that they would just adhere together more nicely. And that completed my box. Off camera I added a ribbon to coordinate just to finish it off. If you want to see more pictures and more information on this, you can head over to my blog to see those. There's a link down below along with links to all the products used. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can like, subscribe by pressing the button on the screen, or leave a comment down below. There are some more videos on screen that you may enjoy. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!